Okay, this morning we learned about the halachas of smelling a tabak. If you say bracha, you don't say bracha. So I said there is a chelik adrush that we'll learn today by Shiur Ein Yaakov. So we're going to learn today the Gemara and Yuma Daf Lamed Tes Amud Beis. Gemara says like this: Amar Rabba bar Chana, Mirushalayim liYericho Esther Parsos. The distance between Yerushalayim all the way to the city of Yericho, 10 parsos. Now, each parsa, it's 4 mil. Each mil, it's about a kilometer. So it comes out from Yerushalayim till Yericho, it's about 40 kilometers. Gemara says, Izim shebi Yericho, hoyu misachos mireach ktoises. The goats in Yericho, 40 kilometers away from Yerushalayim, they would sneeze from the ktoires. In Beis Hamikdash would do avodas ktoires. They would sneeze from the ktoires. Mean that the ktoires, the smell of them would travel 40 kilometers, and they would cause them to sneeze. The goats. Now, noshim should be Yericho. Enon trichim lisbasem mireach ktoires. The women of Yericho, they didn't have to put any perfume on them because the Reach HaKtoires would go with the fact that they would just put free perfume on. Free perfume. Kala should be Yerushalayim. No, Kala, usually she needs more perfume than a regular woman. So that wouldn't go to the Kala of Yericho, but Yerushalayim, even in Yerushalayim itself, from the Beis Hamikdash, the Ktoires, would be so effective, the Kalas didn't have to put any perfume at all. They're going to Chasana, they're going to the Sheva Brachas, the Kalas, and the Ktoires was so powerful, would affect them. Now, so like this. First of all, before we go further, they're going to go to a bigger Chiddush than this. It doesn't look realistic when we learn this. We don't know anything in the world that could travel smell could travel 40 kilometers to the point, not just traveling, you feel the smell, that the goats are sneezing. Okay? And then the woman says, I don't have to put perfume, there is so much, it must be the whole, it's something looks like something very, very unusual. It's not normal. Then furthermore, now it's a bigger chiddush. Omar Rabbi Yossi ben Dolgai. Izim hoyo la'aba v'hare michmor. My father had goats in the mountains of Michmor. V'hoyu misachres mireach haktoires. They would sneeze. By the way, now this Gemara is still about the same what we learned before. The next Gemara is the big chiddush. Omar Rabbi Chia bar Abin, Omar Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha. Sochli zoken echad. The Rabbi Chia bar Abin, the son of Rabbi Yeshua, says, one old man told me, Pam achas alachti l'shiloi. This man says, I went in Shiloi, ve'erachti recha ktoires mi ben kosaleya, and I smelled the red was in Shiloi. Now, Shiloi, just to give us the right idea, Rab Chia bar Abin, the son of Rabbi Yeshua ben Korcha, lived after Shiloi approximately 1,000 years later, because he was after Churban Bayis Sheni, way after Churban Bayis Sheni. Now, Bayis Rishon was 410 years. Bayis Sheni was 420. We were already holding by 830. In between, 70 years of Golus. We were already holding by 900 years. That he himself lived many years after the Golus, and Shiloh was way before. So we're talking about approximately plus minus of 1,000 years. And what he's saying, Rab Chia bar Abin, the son of Yeshua ben Korcha, one old man told me when I was in Shiloh, and the Mishkan used to be in Shiloh, again talking about going back 1,000 years almost. He says, I smell in the walls of Shiloh, of the houses. First of all, I don't know how many houses could be standing for 1,000 years. I don't know. We don't know funny such as structures today. He says, I smell in the house from the Reach HaKtoires. Now, all this Gemara, it looks very, very miraculous, not realistic. How could you smell something from 40 kilometers? How could you smell something from 1,000 years ago? It's all sounds something over here needs to be more explained. Now, and that's why I brought this Gemara, now we're going to go to this inyan of tabak. They say, there's a Maaseh with the Alter Rebbe. Today we have a Baruch Hashem, a big movement of tshuva, a lot of Bala tshuvas, but in the time of the Alter Rebbe, it was not so popular. There was no movement of tshuva. It was here and there about tshuva. So one of the Bala tshuvas of the Alter Rebbe, his name was Rav Shloime, he appreciated the Alter Rebbe helped him to do tshuva, so he brought the Alter Rebbe a present. He brought the Alter Rebbe a tabak case, where you hold the tabak, made out of gold. So I'm going to give him, he helped me to do tshuva, I'll give him this. The Alter Rebbe took this tabak case, looked at it, and he says, there is one organ in the person that's the most holiest organ, doesn't have any tivus, and this is the nose. With the ears, you hear sometimes things you're not supposed to hear. You want to hear something with the eyes, you want to see something with the mouth, you eat. Nose doesn't need anything, it just breathes, doesn't have tivus, I need to smell something. It just needs air to breathe, to live. Doesn't have tivus, doesn't have desires. And he says, now you want me to buy tabak and put in this case and stop pushing tivus into my nose? So that's the holiest organ we have. He took it and he converted the tabak case as a mirror to fix his tefillin. He said, okay, that was the mindset of the Alter. But then they asked the Alter Rebbe, they know that the Baal Shem Tov and Talmid of many of them, they used to smell tabak, and especially is known that there was Rabbi Yaakov Yosef of Polna. He was a Talmid of Baal Shem Tov. He's an author of many Sfarim. And he used to smell tabak. They told him, how come they did it then? If you're so careful not to put any tivus into your nose, keep it so holy, how come they did it? So he told him, you should know. When Rabbi Yaakov Yosef, Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov, he smelled tabak, he nullified taiva of niyuf. He nullified the feeling of immorality around him. 400 parsois, meaning like 1,600 kilometers around him, all around him, he was with his avoider. He was a holy man. Says, if you don't know how to do this, what he did with this avoider of smelling tabak, don't smell the tabak. Meaning, by the tzaddikim, it was a big avoider smelling the tabak. They did something with it. Now we're going to explain soon this Gemara and other things. What the chush of smell, what we have over here, the sense of smell, how great it is. We know also in Beis Hamikdash, one of the major avodas of Beis Hamikdash, it was avodas haktoros, which is that was where they made the aroma of the 11 spices. So the Rambam in Moira Nevuchim says that the whole avodah of Beis Hamikdash to make the 11 spices was, since in Beis Hamikdash was a lot of blood, a lot of flesh, and it could be a lot of smells over there. So he says that's why they made the ktoros to remove all the air, to refreshen the air. That's what the Rambam writes. Many commentators that they say in the Rambam, how could that be? The Beis Hamikdash, the most holiest avodah was ktoros, and the way you're making out of the ktoros, the whole thing was just as an air freshener. It cannot be. That's the whole avodah haktoros. Every day they did ktoros. Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur went. It was the biggest avodah on Yom Kippur, and the whole thing was just air freshener. So they questioned, they challenged the Rambam on this. So the Alter Rebbe explained the Rambam. He says, the Rambam says very good. He says, he explained. When we brought in Beis Hamikdash korbanos, was a lot of korbanos. People bring korbanos because they did something wrong. They bring korbanos for averos, different type of averos, different korbanos. The Alter Rebbe says the korban that takes care of the avera, to remove the avera, to cause the tshuva through this, to remove the avera. However, he says, the avera is two things to the avera. The etzam, the ma'aser avera a person did, and then it brings along with it certain smell, impurity. So in Beis Hamikdash was a lot of impurity because people took care of the avera, but the smell, the effect of the avera, again something spiritual we're talking about now, still was there. And that's what the Rambam says came the ktoros, to complete the tshuva and the avoid of Beis Hamikdash, to remove the impurity. Didn't mean just the impurity the physical one. He meant to say the impurity, there's a spiritual impurity comes with the Avera smells, and then came the Ktoiris to remove this.
So like mopping up all that.
Right. So according to this, the whole avoid of Ktoiris, and that's why Ktoiris also has the shoyrish of the Miloshon Keter Kesher. Rashi brings this idea also, Lagabe Hogor. Anyway, so Ktoiris, it's Makasher you with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The reason for it, again, because it's the avoida with the Reach, and the Reach is the most holiest sense we have. It's in the Gashmius. It's a Gashmius smell. It's a physical smell. We smell it with our physical body and nose. But it's the most holiest, and the reason for it, because it's not involved much in Gashmius. We don't have a taiva really for it. And that's what the Alter Rebbe says. Why you want to take a tabak and put into your nose? Your nose is the holiest, and you want to bring that one too? Otherwise, we're trying to bring all the other sentences, make them more holier, but not to bring the holiest one down. Now, according to all this, now we're going back to the Gemara in Yuma. The Gemara in Yuma says that you had the smell of the Kotoris going all the way to Yericho, 40 kilometers. Din min bedavka, could be also begashmius, but did not mean bedavka gashmius. You felt the smell of the. It was such a great effect of the kedusha of the Ktoires till 40 kilometers later. Not only human beings smelled it. That's what the Gemara talks about izim. Even animals, meaning the most lowest part, animalistic part, animal, it's lower than the person. Even it's affected the animal. The sneeze from it, meaning the recha kedusha, the kedusha of the Ktoris affected even them. And something it's affected the women, the callus. And that's also what explained that the old man says, I was in Shiloh, I smelled the Ktoris, he says, in the walls 1,000 years later, because it's not physical. Physical, you're right. Maybe those homes not even in existence some 1,000 years ago. Definitely the smell of the home, but the spiritual effect of the Ktoris, it could be in space. It could go back so far to affect the space around the Beis Hamikdash, and in time also it could go that far away that the Ktoires has an effect in time also. So according to this, the whole thing is really b'derech hateva, physically. It's very difficult to understand all this. It's what space of 40 kilometers, a time of thousands of years. Yeah, but on a spiritual, it's such a strong thing, the Ktoires, the Kedusha of the Ktoires, it would affect even in such a long space and long time. It's interesting. In the Torah, we see when Yitzchak Avinu gave brachas to Yaakov and Esau, and it's interesting. I just paid attention for it today. It's in Perek Chav Zayin, Posuk Chav Zayin. It's Zach. In Hebrew, Zach. It's pure. It talks about purity up here. So when Yaakov Avinu comes to Yitzchak Avinu, and he still don't know that by the time of the bracha it's Yaakov Avinu, he wasn't. He thought it was Esau. It says over there, and again, Perek Chav Zayin, Posuk Chav Zayin, Vayigash, Vayishak Loi. Yitzchak Avinu came close to Yaakov and he kissed him. Vayorach es reyach begodov, and he smelled his clothing. Vayivorcheh, and he gave him a bracha, and he told, Vayomer reach b'ni, look, the smell of my son, kereach soda asher bercha Hashem. That's like the smell of the field that Hashem gave blessing. So Rashi, he questioned this. He says Yaakov Avinu was dressed with the clothing of Gedei Izim. His mother made him a garment from the wool of the goats, and he said that it had not such a pleasant smell. So how could Yitzchak Avinu say, I smell over here I smell over here the beautiful smell. Rashi says over here, Kareach Sode, Shenichnas Imo Reach Gan Eden. Came with Yaakov Avinu when he came to Yitzchak for a bracha, smell of Gan Eden, and that's what Yitzchak Avinu smelled. So And then we're going to see in a minute what he saw with Esau. Interesting. Also in Perek Chav Zayin, Perek Zach, in the Geras HaKodesh from the Alter Rebbe, he brings over there from Sefer Asora Ma'amoros. It says like this. Kanoida Ma'amaimer Razal, Al Yaakov Avinu, Olav HaSholom, Shenichnas Imoy Gan Eden, V'kach Kosa V'Sefer Asora Ma'amoros. Yaakov Avinu, when he came to Yitzchak, came with him the smell of Gan Eden. She'avir Gan Eden, that this was brought in a Sefer Asora Ma'amoros, at showing us how this whole thing it relates to every one of us. Reyach Gan Eden mispashet soviv kol odom. Around every one of us, we have smell Reyach Gan Avir Gan Eden, the air of Gan Eden, the realm, the aura, whatever you want to call this. We have the air of Gan Eden. ונרשמים באוויר זה כל מחשבויסו ודיבורו והטובים בתוירם ועבודת השם. If a person thinks good thoughts, holy thoughts, good speech, he talks about Torah, Tefillah, everything being written on this air of Gan Eden, which is around us. And that's the Gan Eden came with Yaakov Avinu. He had a lot of it. Yaakov Avinu was in a full world of Kedusha, and Yitzchak Avinu felt it. I feel the Gan Eden around this boy. And he says, like, v'chen lehepech chas v'sholom, and something the opposite, nirshomim ba'avir ha'mispashet megehenom saviv kol odom. Something a person could have around him, Gehenom, when he takes bad thoughts, bad speech, bad action, and all this bad thing, it's written over there, and around his, and that's what by Esau it says, when Esau Avinu, when Esau Arasha came to Yitzchak Avinu, it says, lay down for in Pasuk Lamed Gimel. Vayecherad Yitzchak charodo gedoylo ad me'od. When Esau came, he got scared, and Rashi says, what Yitzchak got scared? He says, umidroshei ro gehenom psuchot mitachto. He saw under Esau's Gehenom, meaning again, it's a Gan Eden and Gehenom, as according to the Sefer Asora Ma'amoros, among everyone, around every one of us, we have Gan Eden and Gehenom. The good thoughts being written in the Gan Eden around us, and that's Yaakov Avinu had a lot of it, so Yitzchak Avinu felt it. Esau, a Russia that was Gehenom around here, a lot Gehenom because everything was written around him. And Yitzchak Avinu felt Gehenom psucha tachtov, and that's what he felt. So according to this, we could create around ourselves a lot of Kedusha, a lot of Gan Eden, or God forbid the opposite. So one of the things we have going on good for all of us, most people today, even doesn't see a big Bal Madrega, don't have any problem with type of the nose. They don't have to, nobody use it as for Tivus. Mainly, this is the holy thing we have, like I said, in our senses. So Adarabah, you want to try to make other senses going up to this level and not bringing this sense down. And this is really, and that's why I said, La halacha, we'll learn today, if you should make bracha, not the whole thing, if smelling tabak, the whole thing, especially, it's one time you smell, when I say covered Shabbos, covered Yom Tov, but people that the whole day are sniffing and sniffing, it's just mamish turning something which is the most highest and spiritual and holiest sense in them to very materialistic for I don't see any purpose, any need for it. And interesting that when we got out of Mitzrayim, we went to 42 stops. 42 stops. And it says, the 42 stops, it says, that are brought in Sforim, it's not only 42 stops from Mitzrayim all the way where we got to Eretz Yisrael. This is the 42 stops of every person going through his life. We're going through our life. We have different stops in life, different places we're going. Now, the final stop going to be when Mashiach going to come. And it's a final stop for the whole Golus, final stop for each one of us, and Mashiach going to come. And it's hinted in the Pasuk. The Pasuk, the end of Parshas Masay, it says, Ela mitzvah shpota shetzivu Hashem b'yad Moshe al b'nei Yisrael b'arbas Moav al Yarden Yerechoy. That was in that Parsha also we see in the beginning. That was the final stop, Yarden Yerechoy. So it's brought in Sforim. What's Yarden Yerechoy? Besides the city Yerecho from the word Reach. That's why the Gemara also spoke about 40 kilometers all the way to Yerei Choy. That's in the Freyach over here. Meaning that the final stop going to be Adrabah, when we're going to become so holy. The Gemara says one of the qualities of Mashiach, Moirach Vadoin. One of these qualities, he doesn't have to have judges, witnesses, arguments. He's going to smell who's a tzaddik, who's a rasha. Mashiach, the chush a smell going to be that's chush, the holiness, the holy chush going to be so developed then, especially by Mashiach. Moirach Vadoin. And it says we're going to come to the final stop. We're going to come to that level of kedusha. Al Yarden Yereicha. We're going to be able to use the chush a smell, the holiest chush, and adrabah, everything else should follow this chush, not the other way around, bring that chush down. So again, Al Derech Hadrush, like I said, there's a shaila, you make a bracha, you don't make a bracha. If you want to hear the shiur, you could refer to the shiur. But L'maise, to go and indulge in this tabak business, I just don't see any sense in this. It's to for most people, unless it's some big tzaddikim that do some big tikkunim with this, it's just lowering yourself, the holiest part of yourself, to the lowest part for no need.
What you're saying on Yom Kippur,